The New York Hudson Valley, famous for its incredible hiking trails. We got amazing foliage in the fall that a lot of people from downstate come up to. We have cider, and we got UFOs. Hello everyone, my name is Jairo, and this is the UAP Hudson Workshop. Today we're going to talk about events that occurred here in the Hudson Valley from 1983 to 1986. During this time, I don't know why I'm holding a pen. During this time, 5,000 residents here in the Hudson Valley reported seeing strange lights in the sky, orbs, and triangles the size of football fields. So let's talk about a couple stories. To begin with, we're going to start with Andy Sadoff, a police officer from the Newcastle, New York. I should add that, not England, but the Newcastle, New York Police Department. And his strange encounter he had one day on patrol. So, on a normal day, as any, Andy was working the 4 p.m. to midnight shift. It was assigned to him to set up the radar, look for speeding cars, the fun stuff. When a series of lights caught his attention, at first he thought it was like a plane, but it was kind of in the distance, pretty far. But to him, he could tell that it was a large object. And as he recalled, it was mostly white lights, but there was some green lights as well. And it was like alternating from green to white. And as it approached the vehicle, it just seemed to hover. And he was just in awe of it. He was amazed by it. And one of the things that really grabbed my attention in this story is that he wasn't afraid. He was just amazed. He was in awe of it. And he didn't know what it was. But the thing that mesmerized him the most was the lack of noise. There was no humming. There was no engine. There was no sound. It was absolutely silent. And just seconds later, that silence was broken by another eyewitness report. At virtually the same time, Ed Burns, a computer engineer and senior manager for IBM, was driving on the Taconic Parkway, 10 miles north of Officer Sadoff's location. Out of nowhere, Ed got static on his radio. And, he's thinking, maybe I'm on the wrong channel, like this damn thing. And he goes to turn the knob. And as he does, he happens to look up. And he sees this giant triangular ship. And Ed said that the back of this ship was as large as a football field, at least. And again, there was no noise. And adding to this story, it wasn't just Andy or Ed. The lieutenant of the Newcastle Police Department also saw this, or a similar triangular object. It was Lieutenant George Lowry from the Newcastle, New York Police Department, who also happened to see this triangular giant craft, who said it was the size of a football field, and it had 20 or more lights in the back. And reading what Lieutenant George Lowry witnessed, there is another part about who this man was. So Lieutenant George Lowry was also a former aircraft mechanic in the Air Force for 3 years. And he knows how planes fly and maneuver. And in his words, to him, this didn't look like any aircraft to him. I also want to briefly touch on the Bob and Lori tape. This was a recording by Bob and Lori, two residents here in the Hudson Valley, that actually captured on the camcorder, like a VHS tape, of these strange formations of lights in the sky that actually matched with what a lot of descriptions of what people were seeing and witnessing during this crazy time in the Hudson Valley. And on a side note, this is actually pretty good quality. If you've ever tried to film like a video at night with like an iPhone, you know how shitty it is. An example is I actually wanted to grab a at night like a nice image of the Beacon Bridge right on the Hudson River. And I'm all excited. I'm like, yo, this is gonna look so sick for the video about, the UFOs from the 80s and the Hudson Valley. And if I get this really cool shot, like it's really gonna make this video pop. I'm gonna include the video right now. And as you can see, it's dog shit. It's really hard to record, even on an iPhone at night, a bridge that's lit up. So my props to Bob and Lori for getting, if true, this tape that's pretty damn well detailed, especially for the 80s. So freaking awesome job. Those are just some stories. There are just too many accounts, like stories, for me to cover in this one video, or even one channel if I'm being completely honest. There are, if you Google UFOs Hudson Valley, you're going to get a slew of results. And I highly encourage all of you, if you want to do more research in the Hudson Valley sightings, to go and pursue those resources, go and pursue those books. But now we're going to move on to the next part of this video: the demand for government investigation. David Scarpino, an accountant who worked in New York City, Bill Healy, a meteorologist who worked at a county airport, and a county clerk, Dennis Sand, all called for an investigation at a town meeting. If you've ever been to a town hall meeting, a common council meeting, you know it's not the most exciting thing in the world. And for people to organize themselves and to make a joint statement and call for action at the town hall, some real shit must have happened. This demand for an explanation ultimately led to Stewart International Airport, a local airport here in the Hudson Valley, that explained that this entire episode, although annoying, was largely dismissed as a hoax perpetrated by a group of stunt pilots. All right, well, there you have it. This whole thing was perpetrated by a bunch of stunt pilots who decided to mess with people with their silent aircrafts the size of football fields, and aircrafts that couldn't be recognized as aircrafts by a former 3-year aircraft mechanic in the Air Force. All right, y'all. Well, it's been a good video, and I'll catch you in the next one. I'm going to go out on a limb and call that bullshit. And a lot of people would call that bullshit then and now, the statement made by Stewart Airport. But thinking about what we know today in the year 2024 as to what we didn't know, aircraft technology in the year 1983 to 86, let's just think about some possible explanations and why they might or they might not fit this story. But what perplexes me is that there are accounts of these objects in the sky morphing. But one common theme in the stories that we covered was dead silence. It wasn't quiet, it was silent. Now, when you think of giant triangles or giant black boomerangs in the sky, you automatically think of the US's stealth aircraft. The common suspects that come to mind are the B 2 stealth bomber, the F 117 Nighthawk, or Lockheed Martin slash Boeing's RQ 3, and then would be RQ 170. Hell, even the SR 71 Blackbird gives an otherworldly appearance. Maybe the B 2 stealth bomber does have those silent, dead silent qualities that are unrecognized. A lot of the technology used in that stealth bomber is still classified to this day. I think of a story of the Joe Rogan podcast where he had Commander David Fravor, the man who chased a real UFO, now nicknamed the Tic Tac, in his F-18 Super Hornet. He spoke about things he would do with messing with hikers in the desert. When he was out in the desert, he would see this campfire, a group of people. He would cut the engines, turn the lights off, seeming silent. And when he would get closer to the campfire, he would point that nose up, turn on the afterburners, and boom, you have yourself a UFO sighting. You have this giant flame just going straight into the sky out of nowhere. Personally, I think the government, the Stewart aircraft statement, I don't think it adds up. Although maybe perhaps some sightings were US testing out stealth technology. Maybe. But as documented with the SR 71 Blackbird, that was tested out in Groom Lake, Area 51. And those tests were made to be private. They went to huge lengths to make sure no one knew that this aircraft was even being built, tested, or flown. I just find it really dumb if the US was testing new stealth technology during the Cold War on its own citizens from 83 to 86, and that's just that chapter. It goes on it goes on longer. It just doesn't sound strategic. Why would you show your cards to the public and potentially your enemies? All right, well, that concludes the first episode of the Hudson UAP workshop. My name is Jairo Perez, and I just wanted to thank you all for watching this first episode. From here on out, I will be still focusing on the unidentified anomalous phenomena, but it won't be specifically to the Hudson Valley. My reason for the first video being solely about the Hudson Valley is because I am from the Hudson Valley. I've been here almost all my life, and it's a place that is, well, it's home to me. And not only that, but I'm proud of being from the Hudson Valley. Hell, I'm even wearing the Angry Orchard hoodie. Our local hard cider place, which is now nationwide. It's crazy to think a place in Walden is like nationwide now. But yeah, from here on out, I will still be covering the unidentified anomalous phenomena, but not sticking closely to the Hudson Valley. But if you're still interested in learning more about the Hudson sightings, I highly recommend just opening Google and typing in Hudson Valley UFO. You're gonna get a slew of results, a lot of first-hand accounts. But if you're looking for reading material on the subject, I highly recommend Linda Zimmermann. She's written a lot about the subject. And if you're around the Pine Bush area here in the Hudson Valley, I highly, highly recommend visiting the Pine Bush UFO and Paranormal Museum. Honestly, when I Googled this museum, I thought it was going to be cheesy, maybe a little corny, Like a like I don't know. I had my premonitions. All of those were blown out the window. Like that museum is so amazing in the information they've gathered. The people running the museum really know their stuff. Um, and they give you just the story, the background, what happened afterwards, and even like possible explanations that are more prosaic. But I highly recommend them. You like it's worth every dollar. But also, if you're from the area and you know someone, a neighbor, friend, family member who's lived in the area from 70s, 80s, 90s now, just talk to them. Ask them, like, have you ever seen a UFO? UAP, you ever seen something in the sky or something you can't explain? You're gonna be surprised with some of the answers you get. Case in point, I've shown this triangular object in the sky in this video. That video came from a close friend of mine. His name's Tanner. And it's not like he came up to me and like said, I have this. I just started speaking to him about the project I was working on, this video. And he told me, he's like, yeah, I saw something just like that. Like this giant, like triangular, just ship, silent. And he gave me the photos and he gave me permission to use them. So special shout out to Tanner. But yeah, just talk to people and you might be surprised with the answers you get. Well, that concludes it for the first episode of the Hudson UAP workshop. My name is Hyro and I'll catch you on the next one.